Hey everybody, welcome back to Wilde Speculations. I'm Daniel.
I'm Scott.
This week we will talk about episode 27.
Converging Fury.
Yes.
We just go off.
Maybe.
One second. Technical difficulties. Good?
Yeah.
Alright.
Okay. We're having conflicting data here. Windows says it's okay, or Windows says it's broken, OBS says it's okay. Okay.
Alright.
We seem to be on.
Sorry about
everybody.
Alright. So, episode 27.
Yes.
Heading in.
Well, right off the bat, so I wasn't that emotionally affected when Molly died. And I'm the kind of person that hearing about a death, I usually don't get that upset.
Right.
It's the funeral that upsets me.
Okay.
And this episode starts with
A funeral.
their funeral for Molly. And I did lose it.
Yeah.
When Bo was when we got to see some of her conversations retold through her point of view,
Right.
in her discussions with Molly about leaving town's better,
Yeah.
and how she thought that he was just an arrogant bastard for saying that. How could he?
Right.
And I thought that was super powerful.
Yeah, it was.
And I liked the way that she basically attacked.
Keg.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think Keg played it right to let it happen.
Yeah, definitely.
Because otherwise she would have been facing 3 to 4 attacks from a monk.
You don't go into a fist fight with a monk, just to learn that.
Yeah.
That was really powerful. The one that got me, though, was not. He said not to steal from happy people. I can't do this.
Which is an interesting... So it's really powerful that she thought about that. But it's also interesting because that means, from her perspective, Molly was happy.
Yeah.
Whether or not he was...
Right. Well, and that was kind of the persona he put out.
Yeah.
The carefree carny.
Yeah.
And then with Caleb, his parting words, "Shine on, circus man."
Yeah.
Showing almost, for Caleb, that showed a lot of emotion, a lot of empathy towards another person. He's very reserved with that, so that was,
Yeah, and on the second watch, Pink Floyd started playing in my head.
Yeah.
Shine on, you crazy diamond.
Yeah.
Now, we had an interesting use of a spell that I wanted to call out in that scene.
Okay.
When Caleb uses the earthen grasp to dig a hole.
Yeah.
There's nothing in the spell that says it can do that. There's also nothing in the spell description that says it can't.
Right.
But if it can attack things, grab them, damage them, and hold them,
it should be able to dig a hole.
Yeah.
And I think that's where the rules are not set so that you can use it in the narrative like that.
Yeah.
Which I like, Yeah. I like that kind of thing.
Yeah. Well, this episode was almost bookended by uses for spells that you don't think they're going to be using.
Yeah.
Or ways that they can be used.
Yeah. Used for Goodberry, I've never seen in all my years playing.
Nor I. Although I agree with Matt's adjudication of the rules. They are bruises. Goodberry heals. Yeah, it kind of would work.
Yeah.
But yeah, and we like to call it what we got right. Yeah. I called Neela.
You called Neela. I didn't even pick up on that just because I don't think he's ever foreshadowed someone, a guest star like that. So I didn't even pick up on it. Yeah, I really liked her entrance as the horse. Oh, there's an extra horse. And then it just forms. And I like her description, the Mongolian herder type wear.
Which, that whole interaction actually reminded me of a conversation that I had. I think it was in a Facebook group. Where the topic of discussion was how to introduce new PCs or NPCs and what have you.
Right.
And I made the joke that the PC Halo,
right,
that characters get, just because the players at the table know that the character they're talking to is a PC, it colors the way that they interact.
One of two things happen. It always colors the way they interact, but either, okay, it's a PC Halo, they just automatically trust them and let them in, or PC Halo, that's metagaming. I am overly aggressive and standoffish. There's no middle ground.
Yeah.
And I fall prey to that too at times.
Well, everybody does. And I mean, ultimately, it's a game that you're all playing together.
Right.
It requires that a certain amount of, okay, this person is obviously here to help us. And I mean, you could rationalize that away.
Right. As
being anything, just something about them you pick up on and you like them, and so but it was interesting. And Thursday night, Sam was like, "Ooh, ooh," metagame pigeon, and which I thought was hilarious, and reminded me of that conversation on Facebook.
Yeah.
They had okay, so I really think Neela wanted to use Druidcraft on Molly's grave.
Yeah.
But I don't think she was conversant enough in the mechanics and what spells she had to dictate that.
Yeah, no, it was definitely her first time playing.
Yeah, and I could tell she wanted to do something, and it wasn't until the end of the episode when, in frustration, she says, "I wanted to use Druidcraft."
Yeah.
Now, I think you could interpret that into thinking that she wanted to use Druidcraft in the scene that just preceded that, which was the getting in and out of the camp or the hideout. But I think it was all the way from the beginning of the episode.
I think so. Yeah.
So, which might have sparked an interesting ethical conversation. Because if she had, so she talks about how in Leaves she sees people and the spirits of the dead and whatnot.
Right.
If she had done that, is that her attempting to represent that those plants are Molly?
Mm.
And is that a version of charlatanism? Because they actually came from her.
Yeah.
Which makes it kind of Molly.
Yeah.
In an odd circular argument kind of way.
I like how they were debating what to leave and what not to leave in case he wakes up again.
Yeah. Yeah, which was a conversation that was happening on Twitter after that he died.
Oh, yeah.
And on YouTube and stuff. Basically, a lot of places. Where it was like, well, he was buried and came back once.
Right.
But I think Matt and Taliesin both nipped that in the bud in my mind.
Yeah.
That Molly was not coming back.
Yeah. No, they both mentioned that it wouldn't be right for the story and what they were going for. And, both of them had even said they thought about the Lingering Soul class that Matt created, but it wouldn't be right for that character.
Right. Because he didn't have a driving goal that was driving him to...
Right. And we'll,
refuse death.
Dallas
or Yasha might.
Right. Yasha might. That'll be a lot easier to bring her back.
Yeah. So they happily invite the druid to come along, and they trail the bad guys. They get into Shady Creek.
Yes.
Okay, so one of the things I wanted to talk to you about, actually.
Okay.
And this may... I don't know if this necessarily has any bearing on the episode, but it might in the future episodes, because Matt made them make Constitution saving throws when they were camping outside in the snow.
Right.
And I made you guys do something similar.
Correct.
In our game.
Yes.
Now, I think Matt was going to give them levels of exhaustion.
Right.
If they failed.
Mm-hmm.
I was going to straight do damage to you guys.
Okay.
Which do you think is better or worse?
I think it would depend on the severity. I mean, if it's just a few inches of snow, I would say exhaustion. If it's a full-on blizzard, I would say damage.
Okay. Okay, that's interesting. That's just for my own interest.
Just because you're not necessarily going to take damage if it's a light snow. But if it's a heavy snow, you're going to end up with frostbite.
Yeah. Fair enough. And not saved herself because she bought winter clothes.
Yep.
Which is something you guys didn't do.
Right. Well, I don't think any of us can carry much more. I think two of us are close to hitting that encumbered level, and two of us are already past it.
Yeah.
So, since we're doing the encumbrance...
Yeah, we're doing a pretty gritty survival campaign where we're tracking encumbrance and
gritty healing.
Gritty healing. They can only spend hit dice on a long rest unless they use a healer's kit.
And we have no healers.
Yeah, it's been rough for them. So they get into Shady Creek Run, and she made the common mistake of new players who take Pass Without a Trace.
Right.
To believe that it makes everybody invisible.
Yeah.
And even the cast of Critical Role did that.
Yeah. Mac in the
early days of the first campaign. When they reached the level that they... Well, no, because I think they always had that. But they were coming from Pathfinder.
Right.
So everything was new to them. But yeah. We get 2 locations from Keg. One run by a murderous dragonborn, and the other by a creepy human. The brothel, the landlocked lady.
Yes.
And they decide, because Mardoon's name was mentioned, that they're going to go there.
Right. And I found it interesting that Bo's way of grieving was to do what Molly did at the end. Kind of one last hurrah for him. She had alcohol or the...
And see, I interpreted that more of her being a little more like Jane Cobb in Firefly. Okay. Because there's a...
Yeah, no, I can see that.
Yeah.
You know, I kind of took it like, that's what Molly did at the end.
Yeah.
I'm going to let him live one more time through me. Because she's never really been the... She's been the awkwardly hit on everyone type, but she's never been the go out and get a concubine type.
Yeah, that's true.
And so it kind of just rang to me like, oh, that you know, that's her way of in memory of Molly.
Yeah,
is how I took it.
Yeah.
So, and I thought that was I thought it was kind of neat. So.
We got the insinuation again that Caleb and Not are an item.
Yeah.
From Keg.
Yeah.
And her saying, you can do so much better. And Caleb getting defensive of Not and Not being like, no.
Nah, she's right. I mean, look at this.
Yeah. And so one of the things that it was, and we've talked about how prevalent the prejudice against goblins was going to be.
Right.
That Matt would play into. And Sam even forgot that he was playing a goblin when he had cast Disguise Self.
Yeah.
And he's like, well, they didn't really react to me. And he's like, oh, wait.
No, he forgot that he used Disguise Self and didn't look like a goblin.
Yeah, but Matt hadn't.
Yeah.
So... Or he had, and the player never noticed.
The magic of the DM. You let them jump into the superstitions, answer the questions for them.
Yep. So, I mentioned while we were setting up everything, that I am almost positive that I know who and what Molly is playing.
Yeah. And why don't you go ahead and share that?
Now, last week I said Paladin. I made a strong case for Paladin.
Yes.
And you made a pretty good case for Sorcerer.
Right. But when you said, and you got me thinking about the Paladin, and that might be something he might do because they need a tank when Yasha's not around. Especially with Ford and Jester gone.
Yeah. So, I have since reversed myself.
I'm about 60-40 at this point.
So, Taliesin, D&D Beyond released an interview with Taliesin where he basically says that Molly was going to be a sorcerer.
Yeah.
Before, like when he was making Molly to replace Percy.
Yeah.
But when he brought Percy back, so that got put on the back burner. That's the character he's going to make for this campaign. Oh, a Blood Hunter. So that's how that happened.
Yeah.
But he said in that interview, he says he loves the mechanics of the sorcerer.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, then maybe he's going to be a sorcerer. Now, I think more specifically, it's going to be a divine soul sorcerer. And it's because Matt, when they are talking, when they get into town, and they start talking to people, and they talk to Mardoon. Mm-hmm. She tells them about the crazy people,
right?
The crazy clerics, or what have you, the miracle workers.
Yeah.
And she mentions a specific site and a specific family graveyard that this hermit, lives by.
Yeah.
So I think it's going to be hermit background, divine soul sorcerer. If I'm going to go way out on the limb, I'm going to say possibly multi-classed cleric. Or paladin, depending on how his stats rolled.
Yeah.
And whatnot. But I think that's the character that Talison's playing. And I think Matt and Taliesin both expected them to get into town and go find someone to try to resurrect Molly.
Yeah.
Rather than go to ground right away.
I'm going to say I don't think it's going to be multi-class yet.
Yeah, I don't think so.
He may be a divine soul sorcerer that will multi-class into one of those two.
Yeah.
But, last time, they were 12th level before any of them multi-classed?
Yeah, I think so.
So, somewhere in that range.
Yeah. And Grog only took, I think, 2 levels of fighter? Three.
At least 3, because he got
Battle
to
Master.
The champion.
Did he go champion?
Yeah. He didn't have maneuvers.
That's right. No, that's right. Yeah. Because he was creating a 19
for the extra crit range.
Yeah. For crit fishing as a barbarian.
Yeah. When you reckless attack and only need a 19.
Yeah. So one of the jokes that I came up with on my rewatch.
Okay.
When Matt is describing them entering Shady Creek Run, he says, "The greens that you expect to see are instead purples and grays."
Right.
That's the predominant color of the valley.
Right.
I thought of Deep Space Nine and a conversation that Garak has with Bashir when Bashir is going to Romulus.
Okay.
And he says to Bashir, "You'll find the predominant color on Romulus to be gray." He's like, "Did you know the Romulan heart is gray?"
Okay, then.
But that's what I thought. I was like, oh, interesting. But this does play into the theme that we've been talking about since the beginning of the poisoned land idea.
Yeah.
And Matt was also almost foreshadowing that when he was describing the terrain as they approached the gorge, like teeth of a titan, and that the mountain looks like it had been pulled apart.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm like in my head, I'm trying to think what forces would make that happen. And part of me is wondering if the Tarrasque is beneath there, and that's going to be from whence it comes.
Oh, okay.
Because I think the majority of this campaign is going to be in the Empire,
right?
With short forays just outside,
which they're doing now,
right? And they've hinted at that they're going to the Menagerie Coast.
Yes.
Shortly after getting back to Zadash, after they've completed this.
Complete this, get the kidnapped friends back, and then head down.
Yeah. They'll get paid from the gentleman, and I think this trip will have turned them. We've been talking that the group is sort of starting that turn into we can be heroes.
Yeah.
Kind of a thing.
I'm gonna stop fucking shit up.
Yeah, and which is what Bo said.
Yep.
And I don't remember if it was on the show or after the show in the intervening time. But we were joking that Molly could be Coulson.
Yeah.
So, and it seems that that's definitely the case.
That could definitely be a thing, yeah.
Because even not. So, yeah, I loved that confrontation at the funeral between Nott and Caleb.
Yeah.
When she's like, "I want you to say it."
Yeah. And he pulls the Liam and just walks away.
Yep. I was like, oh. So good.
I also like the interaction with them in the room.
In the
when
morning.
He tells her, and she's like, I don't want to just use these people. I actually love them. He's like, I like them.
Yeah.
She's like, that's a start.
Yeah. which was a huge change with Caleb. And I liked the way Liam explained it to not.
Yeah.
And again, Liam does better than almost anyone on the show, I think.
Yeah.
In finding ways to get his character's internal monologue.
Yeah.
In the show.
Yeah, he does.
The first campaign, it was a little more contrived with Vax.
Yeah.
But this time, Caleb is crazy enough that he talks to skulls that he finds.
Right. And I think this is all part of him, like, I think he's afraid to emotionally attach to anybody.
Yeah.
Because of his parents, because of Astrid, you know. And this is kind of his story of learning to be able to do that again. His character growth.
Yeah, I can see that. Well, like I said, my prediction for Caleb's arc that Liam has in mind is the opposite of Vax.
You're right.
Where he was happy-go-lucky and just got really dark.
Right.
And I think Caleb's going to start
Liam's
dark.
even said that this is the reverse journey.
Yeah. Oh.
Yeah, he said that on, I think it Talks. It might have just been an interview.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Well, I know he said he didn't want the same arc for Caleb.
He said they were starting, that he was starting where Vax ended.
Yeah.
So he kind of implied that was the case.
Yeah. I'm wondering if, in conversation at the table, after the table in their text thread, if anyone has thought to talk about the human trafficking.
Right.
And there's a movement in our country to say that all prostitution is human trafficking.
Yeah.
So the back and forth of the episode in that regard was interesting to me. So it'll be interesting how, if that comes out and how it plays out.
Yeah. And
we learned that Bo likes to be dominated.
Yeah. And I think that was a surprise to her, the way she responded. Like, I kind of like this demeaning thing.
Well,
it's kind of odd.
And I think that's in part because of what happened at the brothel.
Yeah.
When the elf just like pushed her in and closed the door. And I think Marisha did some quick calculus in her brain at that point.
Yeah. Say we both won simultaneously?
And many times.
I love Sam.
Yeah. Which I meant to call out a few weeks ago, and I forgot. But for some reason, I thought about it when I was watching this episode. And it was probably that joke interaction that reminded me. First campaign, they called themselves the Shits before they got the show and had to change it to Vox Machina.
Right.
Well, they didn't have to, but there was also an in-game reason for them to change it. He got them... They got to be the Shits this campaign again. With the horses.
Yep.
Yep. So, yeah. I don't know if I trust that proprietor or the employee in the morning.
Yeah.
Because he mentioned he's been working there, I think he said, was it 6 weeks or a month? Something like that?
Something like that.
And when they talked to Mardoon, the assassination of her contraband team was a month ago.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's an accident.
Yeah, no.
And I don't know if anyone has picked up on that or what.
Well, here's the thing. What do you think that contraband was?
The easiest answer that we keep bringing up is slaves.
Yeah. That's where my mind went, because we need to get an eye for an eye. We need to go back in kind, take out their slavers.
Yeah.
She was very much insistent that they hit something that, they vie for control of. It's got to be an even pay, take out what they,
the way she worded it, it was more, they took out a major source of my income, so I want to take out a major source of theirs.
I kind of saw it as, but we're going to take out the same thing.
Yeah, I think that was the subtext for sure.
Which brings us back to, this is once... Because I think they've kind of touched on it, but I don't think they've come to the full realization that that's what they're doing.
Yeah.
And I think that's going to be what breaks them from the gentleman.
Yeah.
So.
For sure.
I think the only one that's sure of what he's doing there is Ford.
What do you mean?
I'm sure that it's slavery.
Oh.
And I'm going back to that conversation. What are you dealing? People. Yeah. That's what I thought. That was the conversation.
Yeah.
He seemed perfectly okay with it, which is why I made that speculation back then that Ford's ship had something to do with slavers.
Yeah. I'm trying to think if there's anything else with the landlocked lady in that scene. Oh, we learned that the Empire is recruiting mercenaries.
Yeah.
As well. Up here. And my first thought was, so if I'm wrong, and it's not the crazy guy at that grove,
okay,
that Talison's playing, I think he's going to be playing a member of the Grudge Gang.
Okay.
So I was putting some thought into how Shady Creek runs, and Matt's mentioned that there's a group of crime families.
Yep.
A specific number has not been mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
We only know of 2.
Right.
But in the episode, in the meeting with Mardoon, we learn that the Grudge Gang is hired by both sides.
Yes.
So I was trying to think of what's the ecology of this place? And it's described as lawless, but lawless doesn't necessarily mean disorder.
Right.
And in fact, Ophelia straight up says, I can't just go after them.
Right.
Because the other families won't stand for that.
Right.
So that's going to be interesting, and I think basically the Grudge Gang is, so each family, I think the way that Matt has set this up is very insular.
Right.
But also not really a family either, because the description of those portraits hanging in the foyer do not match the woman that walked down the stairs.
Right.
So, and they have yet to investigate her at all.
Yeah.
I saw some people talking that she's a vampire because Matt described her as having fangs.
Fanged canines.
I think she's a feral tiefling.
Yeah. Yeah, Dex intelligence instead of charisma intelligence.
Yeah, and I think she's probably a mastermind rogue.
I can see that.
If you're going to give her character levels.
Yeah.
So yeah. That was an interesting, when she confronted Keg
Yeah.
And Keg's like, she basically tried to use the same line that she used on the Mighty Nine, which was, you have no guarantees. But Not was like, well, we did kill one of them.
Yeah.
And she's like, oh yeah, there's that.
There's that. I helped kill one. That's better. We'll go with that one.
But the best part of that scene, for me, was Caleb stepping up to be the face.
Yeah.
Without prompting. He just did it.
Yeah.
And cool as a cucumber going up, handled the guards.
And I think the reason he did that, though, is because of the Zemnian accent and, his background. And
I agree.
He's like, I'm comfortable with this. I can do this.
Yeah. Well, that, and I think from Caleb's point of view, I don't think he wanted to do it, but from his point of view, Bo was in no state generally.
Yeah.
To do the negotiating for them.
Right.
And he doesn't know what the gentleman has told her, how many of them are coming.
Right.
So he doesn't know, he doesn't want to present that weak front. And he even says, no, they've all been vetted.
Yeah. Carefully picked, carefully vetted.
Yeah. Not, oh no, we met them on the road on the way here. Which is the truth. But, yeah,
well, there was a little bit of vetting in their conversations.
Yeah, but carefully vetted. And chosen.
Okay,
no.
Those two were stretches. But the vetted, you could argue. They made sure that each person hated the Iron Shepherds.
Yes. Which, shout out to Somali.
Yes.
When she told them what her plan was for revenge. She picked out a particular spell.
Yeah, and see, that was interesting. And what I picked up on it, like, okay, at first she's like, I'll tell you, because, and I'm like, okay, she's conserving her spells rather than showing them off. Great.
Yeah.
And then she goes, because I can only do it,
so many times.
And she's like, and I can do it again and again and again and again and again. And I know the spell and I know why she was saying that, but it was just kind of like, if you can do it so many times, why don't you show us?
Well, yeah. But, like, she can summon the lightning
again and
so many times.
Right. No, and I got why she said it like she did, but it was just kind of funny to me.
Yeah. But they were all just like, okay, yeah, that works.
Yeah. And she was just getting more and more excited about, you can turn into a crocodile and bite someone. I would really like to bite somebody's face off. And we're just like, okay, wow.
Yeah.
That was great.
And I think she did a great job portraying furballs.
Yes.
Because they are outside of society. They are very insular.
Yeah, they're very insular. They're very slow to speak. They're very...
Yeah, well, and in tune with nature. And everything about the way that she did that was great.
Yeah, and I'm excited to see them both back next week and what they do. And which we can get to in a few minutes. So after the meeting with Ophelia, yes,
Bo tries to scope out the wine as she walks by, fails. Keg actually snags a bottle.
Yep.
They're going through the woods. They avoid the random encounter with the bears.
Right.
Which I think are cave bears.
Not dire. He said dire bear.
Oh, well, yeah. But he mentioned that spirits are out there.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting.
Which could be... So if Molly's the hermit, instead of hermit, he could be the haunted one. From Strahd. Which one of the side things is they speak to spirits that other people can't hear. One of the quirks.
Yeah. I could see that.
A divine soul sorcerer haunted one.
Yeah.
I could see Taliesin playing that up.
Yeah. And that would fit his... Well, I guess both would fit his fabulous in a different way.
Yeah.
Quote. So, last night, or not last night, I say last night because I just recently rewatched the episode, but Thursday we saw the power of a druid.
Yes.
In scouting missions.
Yep.
And we've had this at our table.
Yes, we have.
And there's a lot of argument that the rogue is not the stealthiest class.
Yeah, no, it's not.
And she did a pretty bang-up job showing what druid can do.
The rogue is the skill monkey. The rogue can be stealthy.
Yeah.
But stealth is not the rogue's forte.
Yeah. She got a pretty good layout of the environment, and we saw 5 of the 6 that came back, presumably. Which means 1 is either still below, or they're in town.
Yeah, either in town or that person's the one in charge of breaking them.
I think Lorenzo does that. Yeah. And when I was watching it, I couldn't remember who was what in that fight, and if the descriptions he was giving matched them exactly. Right. So I'm not 100% certain either if those were with him in the wilderness. Right. But the big thing in that scene was basically all but confirmed your speculation from when we first met Lorenzo, which was that he's an Oni.
Yeah.
We get the large bed, the evidence of heavy weight, and the bones of a child.
Telling you, it all fits.
Yeah.
And it explains why he could do Cone of Cold.
Yep. So, I'm wondering if... Do they try to rush the attack? Well, I don't think they will. I think they are going to try to find Molly's character.
Yeah.
And it may or may not happen quickly next episode.
I think it's going to happen before break.
I do too. It helps that they were running back to town, fleeing. So, and Matt told them, hey, if you want to know how much it's going to cost, you're going to have to go to find one and talk to him.
Right.
Which is the fallback position that Molly's a member of that gang. But I don't think he is. I think he's the miracle worker that she's pushing them towards.
I think I can see that.
And I also think that will create an interesting dynamic between Talison's new character and Caleb.
Yeah. Yeah, and this was something we talked about after the show last week.
Well, yeah, but like the initial speculation when Caleb told us about his time in the mental institution, that it was probably a divine soul sorcerer that cured him.
Yeah. I thought you were talking about the whose magic is better with Jester, and then introducing a sorcerer, especially a divine soul sorcerer.
Yes, that would be hilarious. But no, specifically the emotional impact of Caleb seeing somebody much, not exactly like, but much like the woman who cured him.
Right. Yeah.
And what that's going to do.
Yeah.
To him adopting that person into the group and speaking for them.
Yeah. And but like when you were telling me before we started this show today about your idea on who Taliesin is, I was thinking, because we had talked about that Jester, Caleb, whose magic is better, and then a divine soul sorcerer just walks in. Why not both?
Yeah.
So,
I think they mentioned going and scouting for a secondary entrance.
Yeah.
I don't think there's one.
I don't think so either.
But if there is one, it will also be north of the house.
Okay.
Because that's where Ophelia's exit came out. And when Matt, several times, as Matt was describing the layout of the town, the history of the town, the incursions from the Empire into the town retreats north into the wood.
Mm-hmm.
Because the woods are cursed.
Right.
And do their own thing to expel the Empire. So any secret exit is going to exit north.
Yep.
I don't know if they put that together. I don't think they did, because the search pattern that Bo was laying out was, we're just going to do a wide circle of the place.
Yeah.
So, and also it doesn't make a whole lot of sense for you to have a secret entrance and exit in your prison.
Right.
Which is why I say there's probably not one.
Right.
I'm also eager to see how Matt describes the dungeon down there.
Okay.
Because we have seen Matt get pretty dark.
Yeah.
And thus far, this guy arguably is the darkest villain that Matt has portrayed.
Yes.
Vecna was diabolical and he dealt in necromancy and he toyed with them, but
Vecna is Lex Luthor, Doctor Doom, maniacal.
Yeah.
More than dark brooding.
Yeah. Well, and just sadistic.
Yeah.
Where I think Lorenzo is sadistic.
Yeah.
And where we saw a little bit of that with I'm blanking on his name. The Fae. Artigan. We saw a hint
just call
of
him
that.
the Traveler.
Yes. We saw a hint of that when he asked to choke Dax.
Yes.
So it will be interesting to see how horrified Matt can make everybody at the table when they go down there.
Right.
And we've talked before about whether or not we are going to see from the perspective of Jester, Ford, and Yasha.
Right.
On how fast they are progressing to this raid against the Iron Shepherds, I think that's getting less and less likely.
Right.
So we have this week, and then next week is the Gen Con show, right?
Correct.
Okay, so this Thursday's episode is going to be
meeting Molly and planning and hiring people.
Potentially hiring. I think if they find Molly, they're not going to hire anyone. Plus, it's likely going to cost them more gold than they have right now.
True. Although Ophelia can give them some coin to hire people. She said that.
Yeah, she said that. And yeah, she may even follow through on that. But that money's not going to come without strings.
Oh, no.
And I'm almost positive they're not going to want those strings. So I think Thursday's episode is going to be them finding Molly. And I think through Molly and through Neela, we are going to get an exploration of why the Grey Wilde is the Grey Wilde.
Yeah.
Why the forest is cursed. And I think we will have a fight with all of them together.
Yeah.
Probably against spirits.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's going to be ghosts, poltergeists, wraiths,
or will-o'-wisps.
Or will-o'-wisps. But a wraith is probably the most dangerous.
Yeah.
Or maybe a wraith. Maybe, let's see. Wraith is... I think it's CR appropriate, so it might be a wraith and a couple of specters that they fight.
Yeah, I can see that.
Especially because when a wraith kills somebody, a specter can come out of it.
Right.
And that also fits into the woods protect us from the Empire.
Yeah.
Especially if the betrayer gods are what's causing that blight out there. Because the Empire represents...
Well, the interesting thing is
force.
how... Okay, so how does the forest delineate the Empire? Because they have 2 Empire kids in their group. Is it something that it can sense? Does it base it off them awakening something, the townspeople? Does it base it off of garb? Can they sense intent and they just, anything with the hostile intent they go after? Because if it's just, they can tell if you're Empire and they've got 2 Empire kids.
My guess is, or at least how I would probably run it, is garb and holy symbols.
Okay. I was going to say mine is intent.
Yeah, but there's too many people going in that forest back and forth with ill intent toward other people in that forest.
True.
Now, we may also see... This is a way out there thing, and I only say it because of Talison's background from last campaign and the fact that we know vampires exist in Wildemount.
Right.
But this family that his new character, if I'm right, is on the lands of taking care of their family plot sounds an awful lot like of vampires bedeviling this family.
Yeah.
And
maybe it's the Briarwood estate this new guy's looking after while they're off in Whitestone.
Right? So, yeah. But, like, they kind of need... Because I don't... Travis and Laura and Ashley are not slated to appear at Gen Con, right? I don't think they are. So sure. He's got to fill 2 episodes with stuff to do before they can come back. Because I think if my math is right that I did weeks ago, that should be about the time when they're coming back.
Okay.
Or when I expect them to come back.
Unless they come back mid-live show.
Yeah. I mean, that would be a special treat.
I mean, they could have planned that knowing that was going to be around the time.
True.
Because even if she hadn't gone into labor right before, that was about the time they were gonna, because he was already expecting that episode.
The baby was only a week early.
Right, they were expecting that episode that he had to write them off.
Yeah.
The episode he was going to write them off.
Yeah.
So they could have expected them to come back at that time anyway, and we'll bring you in second half of the game, let them find you on the live show.
Yeah.
So
because that'll be a big entrance that they'd probably get a kick out of.
Right. Special treat for the live bands. Lucky dogs.
So yeah, I think we're gonna have a little side quest dealing with that family plot issue, introduced via Talison's character,
which is what frees his character up to go with them.
Yeah, and also shows what he can do. They all learn to work as a group before attacking the Iron Shepherds.
Yeah.
So the other option is they just follow a Kurosawa film arc and go in and just start a gang war and play all sides against the middle.
Yeah.
Which, if I was at the table, is probably what I would try to do.
That's definitely what you would try to do. There's no probably about it.
So
that would be your first go-to plan.
Yeah. Yeah. But I would probably get a lot of pushback from Bo, who's on the kick of, hey, we can leave towns better than we find it. And generally, after a gang war, the town is not better.
Right. Especially because of the power vacuum.
Just
causes more.
And maybe Bo is able to convince herself that doing whatever she can to put Shady Creek Run into Ophelia's hands is the best thing to do.
Yeah, maybe. Personally,
which may be why Matt had that guy say more decent people are needed in this town.
Yeah.
And they're like, you're kind of creepy and oddly butting into our conversation. If he's not a mole that was responsible for her losing her income, then that's what that was about.
Right. One thing about, since we're talking about their plans and stuff, one thing that I forgot to mention when that conversation with Nat and Caleb, and Nat's like, I said it before, I'll say it again. We do what they do. We hunt them, and just as she's saying
Pick
that,
them off one at a time. Yeah.
She was just, the intensity in Sam's voice, it was just like, this is a dark side of Nat we haven't seen yet. Not's going to a dark place. Not's going back to her goblin roots. Pick off the weak. Pick them off one at a time.
Yes and no. I think not. Judging by the conversation they had at the funeral and at what they had in the morning after meeting Neela, I think Not has extended her matriarchal feelings to all of them.
Yeah.
And this is now her family and she is the mother.
Yeah.
And I think that was just her accepting the fact that she is going to kill all of these motherfuckers.
Because they killed her boy.
Yeah. And this is the way it has to be done. And it's going back to her roots.
Yeah.
In that sense.
Yeah.
Of when it's got to be done, this is the way it needs to be done.
Yeah. Exactly.
We're coming up in the last few seconds. Any last thoughts before we say
No,
goodbye?
I mean, I think we've kind of covered everything I'm expecting. Expecting Molly. Taliesin. We keep referring. But at least we're not referring to him as Percy.
Yes.
Looking at you, Marisha.
Although he was Percy in the last few minutes.
When we discussed that last week.
Yeah.
But find Molly, I agree with the side quest. Get everything ready. Live show, we're going to see him go in. We may even see him take one of the...
Yeah.
Next week. But we'll see the big assault. And
at Gen Con.
I think Gen Con is where we're going to see them free Ford and Jester. That's my speculation. That's my wild speculation. That's going to be the return of...
Whether they are at this show or not. I think it's going to happen.
Yeah, it may be they free them. Matt voices them for the last bit of the episode, and then the following week, Laura and Travis are back. But regardless,
we'll see ya.
Bye, guys.